Hello, carnivores! This is the Untamed Podcast, episode number 5, and we have a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Jonathan. Now I just turned 24. I'm a Norwegian carnivore. I've been carnivore for about 20 months now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so we just had a talk on your channel. So if you guys want to watch, I guess we could call it part 1 of this video. Um, go watch that on his channel. But I would like to know how you came across carnivore and what were your struggles before starting carnivore?
All right. Yeah. I'll have to take you back a little bit into like earlier stages of my life, I guess. And yeah, I was pretty much always that shy kid in class, right? I also always had like as long as I can remember, really, I had pretty bad gut issues and mental issues and stuff, uh, which like later developed into what they call IBS
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, depression, anxiety, um, and yeah, growing up, in addition to that, I started also getting pretty fat. So I ended up being
Mm-hmm.
the fat kid in class too, which definitely doesn't help with your confidence, right? It just makes everything worse.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, nothing really ever got better. I just kept to myself, really, in school and stuff. Didn't really have any real friends growing up. I kind of struggled with knowing how to talk to people. I kind of always had a lot of anger in me as a kid,
Yeah.
in especially in school. Something really went like haywire, I guess, inside of my mind, especially when the attention in class was like directed towards me. I did not know what to do with myself, and I think like the anger I had kind of just came from my insecurities and not having any confidence and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, and all this stuff, it really just kept building up. I mean, of course, there's ups and downs, right? You have periods where it's a little bit better, but especially towards the year 2023, everything really, really got so bad. It started for me with me wanting to lose some weight,
Mm-hmm.
actually. I thought, like, in my head at that point, what I was thinking is, if I get that six pack, everything's gonna be all right. I'm gonna have my confidence and I'm gonna feel good and all that. So I fell into this whole thing that a lot of people, like young people especially nowadays, fall into, the whole calorie
Yes.
counting thing. Yes. uh, so I started training a lot because, I mean, you got to burn calories to make it work even better. And
Mm-hmm.
then eating, pretty much at this point, actually, I wasn't eating junk or anything. I wasn't drinking really, uh, or anything like that. I cut all of that stuff out. I also, because of my brother, I was aware of the whole seed oil thing. So my family had already switched over to real butter and that stuff. I was pretty much at this point eating a balanced diet,
Yeah.
right? The low fat, uh, a lot of plants, veggies, and fruits and stuff, and lean proteins like Greek yogurt, chicken, or lean ground beef and that stuff. So I was pretty much eating what people call healthy. And yeah, I mean, in the short term, I'll be honest, I actually started feeling quite a bit better. Like I felt like my mind cleared. I felt a bit more confident. I started leaning out, like being more happy with what I
Mm-hmm.
saw in the mirror. But it only lasted so long.
Yeah.
It started actually turning to something worse than how I felt previously. I, I mean, before this whole thing, I was already very depressed and just kept to myself and stuff, um, and had social anxiety, pretty severe, and gut issues. I mean, I would sit for probably 3 hours, 4 hours a day on the toilet just to try to get something out. I was so constipated, like bonding with the toilet every single day, right? And but yeah, so eventually, like after some months, it actually started. It started turning around again. Even though I started feeling better, then I started feeling even worse than I previously had. I started like treating people around me very poorly.
Mhm.
Um, I started isolating myself, cutting people out, canceling plans, right? Because I couldn't handle being around people. I started just wandering around every single day, stuck inside of my own head,
Mhm.
being aimless in life, really, not having any direction, not knowing what to do, really, just feeling completely stuck and lost. And yeah, my mental state was so bad, like my depression and stuff, that I sort of it's very hard to explain. I never went to a doctor to get a diagnosis or
Mhm.
anything like that, because I almost didn't want help with it. I wanted to keep myself down, and like I was very self-destructive. Um, and so I don't know what to call it or what if it has like a name, but I actually started kind of creating a fantasy world inside of my own head. It almost reminds you of if you go read about like schizophrenia, like if you go read about the symptoms of that, like because I started hallucinating during the day and stuff, and during the night and stuff as well at some point, and I had this thing called uh, sleep paralysis, where you'd like wake up in your bed and you feel completely locked to your
Uh-huh.
bed. You
Yeah,
seriously.
I had it one time in the past and I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah, it's so awful. Like
Mhm.
it's so scary, the experience, because you're completely locked, you're
Yeah.
awake, but you can't move. And
Mhm.
for me, it also presented as I saw this like dark figure actually like over me in my bed and
Mhm.
stuff, like and felt like it was after me and stuff. Um yeah, and at this point, this was also in 2023, like during the summer and stuff. The depression was actually at such a bad point, like such a low point in my life, that I actually, the truth of it is, I didn't want to be here anymore,
Mhm.
actually. And I went to bed every day hoping that I wouldn't wake up in the morning. So it was actually very, very bad, like severe depression. And but I mean, obviously, since I'm standing here talking to you today,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like that anymore. I would have, I mean, that person, that version of me would have never come on here to talk to you about like
Yeah.
my story and everything. And I, especially not showing my face on camera. I used to shy away from the camera all the time, but now I want to tell my story in the hopes that it can reach someone who needs to hear it, right? And yeah, so late summer that year in August, I what happened was I hit like my moment of desperation, right? A lot of us who end up here in this whole
Mhm.
carnivore space, we hit like our rock bottom moment
Yeah.
where we like just feel like you're almost forced to make a change, right?
Mhm.
It's unfortunate that we have to reach that moment to actually do that, but yes. So it happened for me late summer in 2023 when I had like the absolute worst IBS attack in my life, where I was so bloated, like a balloon that never stopped getting blown up, inside of my stomach. And it was just, yeah, the pain inside of there so inflamed, and it hurt so bad. I didn't sleep for like a few days uh, and stuff. Yeah, it was almost unbearable. But that was also the point where I just stopped and thought to myself, you know what? I can't keep living like this.
Mhm.
And I need to make a change, and I want to make a change. Um, so my mind just instantly went to this has to be something in my food. I think the first thing I was thinking about was, oh, maybe I'm allergic to something that I'm not aware of. Uh, so I started like thinking, oh, is there something I ate that day that I had this whole flare up that could have caused it. And I traced it back to, oh, I hadn't had an apple in a while, and I had that day. And I know my mom, she's allergic to apples. So what I did was I tried a little piece of apple like a few days later, and yes, everything came back from having that. So from this point onwards, right, I started just really connecting the dots and realizing, oh, wow, the food I put down my throat, right, the food I eat actually does mean a lot. And there's almost this like switch that just went off in my brain where I was so hyper focused and just like I don't know how to explain it. Like I was so connected to my body and like the signals I was getting, and just instinctively listening to how my body responded to the things I was eating. So I was in this period of like about 2 months where I just started eliminating foods and like trying to reintroduce them and just seeing how my body reacted. And at this point, the strange thing is I had actually never even heard of the whole carnivore thing. I didn't even know about like keto, low carb. I was actually just experimenting on my own because I wanted to get some relief from my gut issues. And the funny thing is, every single time I cut out plants from my diet, I started noticing I feel better. And I like started noticing, oh, when I eat that broccoli, I actually feel horrible afterwards. And when it's gone, I feel so good, or at least better. Uh, so yeah, during this whole process of like eliminating stuff during like about 2 months, I kept getting a little bit better, a little bit better. And towards the end of this period, I actually only had one plant left in my diet, in addition to like the animal foods. Um, and that was an avocado. And one day I sat down to have a meal, like ground beef, some butter and eggs, something like that, and then this avocado. And I kid you not, when I go to have a bite of this avocado, I don't know why, but like I had this like visceral reaction to it where I just went like, it tasted complete, just awful to me, and almost like poison, really. And since at this point I decided for myself, I'm just going to listen to what my body is telling me. There's a reason for it, and I just have to follow it, right? And I'm already feeling so much better. So what I do is just I throw it in the trash. The avocado, I decide I'm not going to have it. And yeah, from that day on, I've been 100% carnivore pretty much. Yeah.
That's awesome. I've had a reaction to like blueberries before. So if I do eat fruit, I told you this, it's organic and it's normally like local. Well, there was one time I just went to the grocery store and got some blueberries, and I put that thing in my mouth, and I just like instantaneously spit it out. It was so gross. I was like, it tasted like straight chemicals. It was so nasty. And no, I haven't eaten a blueberry since then. I just can't seem to like look at them and be like appetizing. No. Okay, as an avid fantasy reader, and if you're comfortable with this, I want to know like what you mean by like hallucinations, because you said like fantasies, and are you okay? I'm sitting here thinking like you're dreaming that you're like a fey prince warrior in a far off land. I want to know what like was actually going on there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely go into it. I mean, this whole period of my life, right? It is like a huge blur. My mental state was, I mean, I was not all right. So I don't remember everything, but I do actually, now that you ask me, I do remember one like story from like the hallucinations things. It was actually, woke up in the middle of the night once in my bed, and then suddenly I just hear this like scratching on my door. It sounded like a cat or something to me. And then I suddenly hear the door opening, but for some reason, like I can't see anything, right? Or whatever. Yeah. And then, well, I am awake, or at least I think I was. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I hear almost. It sounds like a cat scratching on my door, and then suddenly the door opens, and I'm so scared that my reaction is just hiding under my like blanket or whatever, and putting my pillow on top of my head and stuff, because I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I just start hearing like it moving in my bed and stuff, and all that, and I can feel it like walking on top of me. But and then suddenly, like, eventually I do take my hand out to like feel, but there's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at the door, it's closed, and I still hear almost like a cat or something running around, like touching stuff and scratching stuff in my room, but my door is still closed and there is nothing in my room. So it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. And then also just other things like just seeing dark figures that I feel like they're haunting me and like coming after me and stuff, just in the middle of the day, even. And yeah, just a lot of, I don't know, it's very, very difficult to explain, really. But also just this whole thing of me almost creating like a fantasy world inside of my head where I lived instead of the real world, like creating characters around me and characters for me and stuff, because the real world, I think, was just too much for me to handle, right? So I wanted to create something that I wanted instead. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, so I was literally reading this book like before, fantasy novel, right? As so okay, I I don't know how to. I have thoughts, but I don't know if they make sense. I feel like a lot of fantasy is obviously all connected to like lore or different cultures or whatever, and a lot of it is actually Irish culture, surprisingly, like Celtic culture. Um, but I have noticed that I used to be like a total like non-believer in like anything paranormal, as far as like, I mean, I always believed in like spirituality, but now I kind of like, and I don't know if I'm just crazy because I read so much, like you start to believe stuff, but I feel like there's definitely more to the earth than we realize. Even if it's not like true, like spiritual beings, like things like trees, I feel like we're spiritually connected to like trees and like rocks and stuff, and we don't realize it. And I'm not talking about like new age spirituality where you like pray to rocks. Like I don't really that. I mean, I'm not saying that people who do believe in that. I'm not saying that they're crazy. Like they believe what they want to believe, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's like a spiritual connection between like human and like earth, and I wonder if there's like more to it or if it's just that. Because like the more like you do carnivore, generally the more open minded people get at just about like everything else in general, like trying to figure out like what has really been hidden from us that we don't know about. So when you said fantasy, I was kind of thinking something different than what you really meant, but that's just because I read so much. But I definitely understand the whole like not wanting to be out in the real world kind of deal. Because even as a carnivore, I still deal with that mainly because I get like socially anxious that if I go out with other people, like what are they going to think about my carnivore stuff and other stuff? And that's a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people don't. I tend to not be the ones that struggle too much with it. Like it's not awful for me. Um, but it's definitely not something that I look forward to. Um, thanks for going further into that. I didn't want to say like make you uncomfortable or anything because I know a lot of that stuff can be traumatic. Um, I'm trying to think of something else. So you, oh, Michaela Peterson. one time she did a podcast episode where she was talking about when she reintroduced soy, and she said that that same night she saw her brother and she looked at him and he looked like a demon. He had a demon face. So I wonder if it's like actual like food, not just like the depression itself, but the food is causing the hallucinations. Like you're just your body's because well think about it this way, like shrooms, if you eat like mushrooms, like the psychedelic ones, they make you trip, they make you hallucinate, and I wonder if like food can be like that in general. Um, but if you're already depressed, that would definitely bring in the paranoia aspect of it too. So thank you for elaborating on that. Now I would really like to ask. You said you were doing OMAD. How long have you been doing that for? And like, what changes have you noticed doing OMAD versus like however many meals a day you were doing before?
Oh, okay, yeah. So, uh, yeah, basically the OMAD thing is actually just something I sort of naturally
Mhm.
gravitated towards. It just came by itself, really, and yeah, I feel like I have a little more energy. I just feel a little better in general. I sleep a little better, and that's stuff. It's but sometimes I do actually eat like a second meal, a
Mhm.
smaller meal or something if I feel hungry. It's not like a strict rule or something for me. It's just yeah, for me, I feel best doing it. I mean, it's a really big meal. Not everyone could actually stuff that in their face in just one meal. But yeah, I feel so good doing it. Really, eating that one big meal, and then I mean, I can just go on with my day, not think
Mhm.
about food until the next day. It's so great and freeing, and yeah, I just love it.
Okay, hold on. I had a train of thought, but then I lost it. I hate it when I do this because
That's
like I was
fine.
I was thinking of like you said something. I was like, ooh, let me ask him about that, and then you started talking more, and then I just was listening to what you were saying. I forgot. Um, so you said you were doing carnivore for 20 months, and you've been really strict, haven't you? Like just meat and eggs and butter, right?
And some fish too.
Fish.
Yeah.
Well, I think fish counts as meat. So, um, you're from a different country. You're from Norway, I think, right? I know I already
Hmm.
asked you this. Okay, so I've heard cultures in a lot of different countries are different. So over here in America, there's not a lot of like fish. Like we don't, unless you live on the coast, you really don't eat fish that much. So is it different over there, or is fish just kind of like a staple? Because I know in like different countries it's different.
Yeah, fish is like a really common thing in our culture, and I live in a coastal city as well.
Mhm.
Like a big, like traditionally, there's been a lot of fishing here.
Mhm.
I usually just go down to like the local fishermen and get something like herring or mackerel or something like that. And sometimes I go fishing myself too.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I've always actually liked fish since I was little. And speaking of the cultural thing, another interesting thing is a lot of our uh, traditional dishes here in Norway, right? They're actually based on mutton or lamb.
Mhm.
Um, and like another strange thing is compared to because I always hear from people in like North America that they always gravitate towards beef, right? That they
Mhm.
really love beef, and then they usually have like an aversion almost to lamb
Mhm.
or mutton. And for me, it's actually almost the opposite, or not that I have an aversion to beef, but I think me growing up eating so much lamb and mutton, getting used to that taste, to me, actually, beef almost tastes like nothing. It tastes bland and boring to me, and I'm not actually a fan of it that much. Uh, so yeah, I just yeah, I kind of went away from the whole fish thing, but I just thought of it.
Well, I'm guessing this lamb is probably cheaper than beef too.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, cause lamb here is like just for like a normal like a shoulder chop cut. You know what I'm talking about probably. It's like $12 a pound, which I feel like is a lot. That's that's not like that's less than a ribeye, but it's still like not really affordable if you're on a budget. And also, I've noticed that lamb tastes very gamey and grassy. So if you're definitely used to eating beef, like that gamey taste will throw you off. And I really don't like lamb that much, anyways. I'd rather have like goat or venison, or beef. So I understand what you're saying about people in America not liking lamb, because it's definitely not my favorite.
Yeah, it seems like it is that like gamey taste that people don't enjoy so much. But that's like the funny thing, like talking about the culture, right? The difference is because that gamey or grassy taste of lamb and mutton is actually the part that I enjoy about it, which is very strange. But I guess it is because I've grown up with all of our traditional dishes having that in them, so that we don't actually like have, or I mean, people eat beef. Of course, we have a lot of beef too, but like
Mm-hmm.
the traditional dishes, I guess, don't actually, they're not made with that typically. So it is definitely quite interesting. And I also really like goat though. That's really nice.
Wait,
I
what'd
have
you
like
say? Goat?
I
Okay,
also,
goat.
yeah,
Yeah.
goat. I have like a local rancher here that I go buy it from, and no one else really wants it, so I get it cheap.
Yeah, I've tried goat a couple times. It tastes very similar to like lamb, but it's not as gamey to me. Um, and venison is a lot of my cousins, they hunt a lot, so we always can get like free venison from them, or deer meat, whatever you want to call it. And it's also very gamey, but it's like it's more of like there's not as much fat on it as there is lamb, and I feel like the fat is where like all the gamey flavor comes from, so it's not as awful.
Yeah, definitely. And that's like one of the things with game meat in general, right? That I really like the taste of it, but the problem is that there's not enough fat in it for me
Mhm.
for it to be sustainable in a carnivore diet. So I only have it like once in a while, but I'm gonna have to add like a lot of butter or something to it, or it's not gonna be a filling meal to me at least.
Maybe
Uh,
it's just the all the lamb that I've ever gotten has been so fatty. I'm like, this is just gross. I can't eat it.
Oh yeah, but I was talking about like the game meat, like the venison
Oh,
and stuff. Yeah, but yeah,
oh,
the lamb
sorry,
is
my
usually,
bad.
but yeah, the lamb is usually very fatty. Here, actually, the highest. Maybe that's a reason why I prefer the lamb as well, because like ground lamb, for example, usually comes in like a 20 to 25% fat rate, like in it, while the highest percentage I've found of beef is 14%,
Yeah.
because like the low fat craze is still that's
Well,
like the
okay.
it's still here in Norway as well.
I know. I don't. How close are you? Because I know like all the European countries are like pretty close because they're all like smaller countries. Like, how close are you to like Ireland and stuff? Like, is that really far away or is it like kind of close?
I mean, there's like the sea in between us, but but it's not
I
it's
I have
not too
like
far
no
off.
like geological concept of anything whatsoever.
Yeah,
Because
I
I'm like
mean,
trying to think like a lot of like meat from Europe is like beef is imported from Ireland because they have a giant like cattle industry over there. So it's they have a lot of dairy cattle too. So I was just wondering if like if y'all are close, then it wouldn't make sense for the beef prices to be so high. But if y'all are like kind of far away, then yeah, that would make sense. Cause I
yeah,
know, yeah.
we don't really import that much from other countries. I guess it's mostly
Oh yeah.
actually from Norway and stuff. But I actually live in like the municipality I live in is like the biggest one in the country when it
Mhm.
comes to lamb and mutton, right? So I guess that also affects the price and stuff. Uh, Probably, I would guess. Uh, I was, yeah. This time, now it was my turn to like lose my, get lost in my thoughts. I had something on my tongue, but I forgot. Oh yeah, other things, interesting things we have here. We have like reindeer meat.
Oh.
That's an interesting one for sure. And then also a pretty controversial one because this is one of three countries in the world where it's legal still, which is whale meat.
Oh.
Yes,
Well, I understand why it's not legal because whales are like basically endangered. But have you tried it before?
I have. Yeah,
What does it
uh,
taste like?
I would say it tastes kind of like beef, but a little gamier, and
Mhm.
then it has sort of a slight hint of like fishy aftertaste. I guess it is a mammal, right? It's not a fish,
Yeah, it is. I
so
think so.
so it is more of a ruminant taste, a little gamey and stuff. I really like the taste of it. Um, but yeah, the ones we actually catch is we only catch uh, the ones called minke whale, and
Uh-huh.
it's like they work closely with scientists and stuff, and look every year how many can we actually catch, and it's usually around 1,000 of them each season. And this minke whale is the one they consider the most abundant and sustainable. There's like, I think it's like 500, 600,000 of them, and then we catch 1,000 about that every season. So, but of course, I can see how would be a problem if every single country was coming to do it. But we turned down the whole ban thing, and it's a big part of our culture traditionally and stuff. And we don't actually overfish them ourselves, uh,
Mhm.
so I think it's fine. And
Well,
I
like
like.
how many pounds is one whale? Like how do you know how much meat you'd probably get from one whale?
I'm not sure the exact number, but it's definitely a lot.
Yeah, because I was thinking like if somebody caught one whale, it could probably feed a lot more people than one cow.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Definitely. Okay. Well, I lost my train of thought again. Um. So. Oh. Okay. I remember what I was gonna ask. So like you were talking a lot about like traditional dishes, and I know in some Europe and forgive me because I'm not very well traveled. I know in a lot of European countries, like tartare and like capriccio and like all those like raw meat dishes are really popular. Would you say it's the same in Norway or?
Uh, Not actually, from my knowledge. I
Mhm.
think, I mean, people enjoy it and stuff. I haven't heard of, I think, that I can think of right now, like a traditional dish or like a common one. I think actually mostly it's like really, really slow cooked meat in like a
Mhm.
stew or something like that, or pot, is more what we do. And usually very heavily salted, with like cabbage or something like that, is usually what it's like more.
Mhm.
And potatoes is like a huge staple, and people have like crackers, like dry bread stuff, and taste awful.
I saw something the other day where it was like potatoes were banned in France, so like because they all thought they were poisonous, which they kind of are, but till like somebody till they had like a famine or something, and somebody was feeding them to all the peasants, and
Yeah,
then
there
they
was like
finally
that. Yeah,
banned anymore.
yeah. I mean, there was that one like potato famine thing at some point,
Yeah.
like some sickness from it. I don't remember exactly what it is. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, potatoes, you definitely have to be very, very careful, right, with how you store them and stuff.
Uh-huh.
They can actually be very, very poisonous and deadly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like well, traditionally like 50 to 100 years ago, like certain vegetables were prepared certain ways. Like potatoes, they couldn't be green and you had to peel them. Now people are leaving the skin on, which is insane to me. And
Oh,
then
that's where
same
all
with
the
like
vitamins are, right?
yeah, it's where all the poison is too. And like
Yeah.
same thing with tomatoes. Like people used to boil them, peel the skin off, take all the seeds out, and now people aren't doing that anymore either. And there's like so many other vegetables that you probably need to do that with too. It's people thought pineapples were poisonous until like 60 years ago or something. It's crazy how much. Oh, and then broccoli's man-made, by the way. Have you seen that where like broccoli's not actually, and a lot of fruits and vegetables aren't actually like naturally been like selectively bred to be a certain size and have a certain amount of carbohydrates in them and all this kind of bad stuff. But it's really cool that like carnivore is not just like mainstream in America. There's so many other people in like other countries doing it too, and I think that's really awesome. Now in America, I have met like a bunch of people who've been doing carnivore just like locally. Would you say you've met people in your country like just in the grocery store doing it, or would you have to really seek somebody out?
I would definitely actually have to seek someone out to find them, I guess. I haven't met like in real life, like physically met someone who's carnivore or anything like that.
Oh, really?
Um, or I have, but not from Norway.
Yeah.
uh, but it is actually lately it has been seeing some growth and getting a lot of attention due to like some bigger podcasters and bigger social media profiles in Norway and stuff talking about it. It's actually starting to get to the front, or like more in the sense of it's starting to grow enough to where they can't be ignoring it anymore, right? It's getting out there on its own. Uh, and there's like a couple of podcasters and stuff that have been talking about it a lot, and people have been starting to get interested. I have like talked to a few like on Instagram and stuff that are Norwegians also eating carnivore and stuff, and there's like a Facebook group and stuff. I think it has 8 or 9 thousand people in it. Keep in mind we're only like 5 million people in this country. uh and yeah, but I don't really see it much in my personal life, like right in front of my eyes.
Hmm.
But also actually lately, or like recently, I saw an article in like the papers and stuff here in Norway, the local ones, where the government went out and they were like in panic and stuff. They were concerned because every single store is reporting a higher rate of like people are buying more red meat than ever
Yeah.
before and eggs and stuff. And they were like panicking about like, oh, this is so dangerous and stuff because it's going against the nutritional guidelines and stuff. So I mean that's making me hopeful, right? People are actually catching on to the fact that
Yeah.
at least the fact that meat is actually a health food and it's good for us, and starting to go away from that whole like balanced diet, plant-based dogma stuff,
Yeah.
which we all know is yeah, not really the way to go, right?
No. 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 Yeah, I've seen a lot recently of like vegans who started adding meat back into their diet, and they go from these like super feminine looking men to like these super masculine looking men. It's all just from like adding back in meat, and I'm like, that's insane. It's super cool. Um, well, is there anything really interesting that you want to bring up? Because I feel like I'm kind of out of topics. If
I mean, if you felt like this is a good place to round off, I think we've had a nice chat.
well, I will
It's up to
say
you.
this.
It's your show.
Mhm. We, Jonathan over here, created a carnivore group chat on Instagram for young carnivores. So, if you would like to join, go follow me on Instagram or go follow him on Instagram and DM us, and we can try and get you added. And I think that's going to be the end of this episode. If I have anybody who wants to be a guest, please let me know on Instagram. Okay, bye guys.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go.